The girl walked, holding tightly to the straps of her backpack, because she was uncomfortable. Everyone was pointing and asking where her father was, and whether she had poisoned him too, and that she was a virus. The next moment, Jianxia screamed as one of the children painfully tugged at her hair. As one of the thugs held his hand, the other shouted that he was finished and that he would never use his hand again because it was poisoned after touching the girl. When she returned, the girl was almost sobbing, and her whole body began to shake from hysteria. She was in pain from these taunts. Suddenly, another girl appeared. She, putting her hands on her sides, shouted at the boys, attracting everyone's attention. She shouted that she knew them and that they were from Class B, and threatened that tomorrow she would tell the teachers that the boys were bullying the girl. The girl asked if everything was all right, and Tan Qian, who remembered it now, said that then she believed that there was a god and that he was helping her. Now the girl was crying, trying to call Jianxia, who did not pick up the phone. She begged him to answer. At the same time, Jianxia was struggling with the boys who were dragging her somewhere, and one was yelling at the other to take her bag and phone. Sitting down, she covered her mouth with her hands so as not to sob aloud, and looked at the body lying lifeless on the road. It was May, and then she threw her head back and screamed as hard as she could while sobbing. The guy in the mask held her by the hair and showed her the photo, telling her not to poke her nose into her business. Blood began to burn on the girl's face. Jianxia was looking at the picture of her friend that the unknown person was talking about, and he continued saying that she could come like this girl if she comes. And then, she grieving for her friend, listened to gossip, because everyone discussed her life and photos that were leaked on the network. The boys traded photos of May, and another tried to get them for nothing. The unknown person called someone, saying that she came home early, so this made it difficult to search. But he assured that everything is under control. Jianxia stood on the roof and looked down as her despair peaked. The girl turned around with tears in her eyes, seeing a man with horns and black wings who appeared out of nowhere. The boy had red hair and an interesting smile, and his eyes were black with red pupils. He was looking directly at Jianxia. He was a devil, and the girl, looking at him, understood it. Meanwhile, he asked if she called him. Baiji Hao stood on the mountain of corpses he left behind, and the girl explained, remembering all this, that it was time to keep her promise. While the girl rolled her eyes, the boy stood behind her and smiled contentedly. The devil came to save her. May was sitting on the roof of one of the buildings, with her legs dangling and trying to breathe properly. She placed her sneakers next to her, taking them off as her phone exploded with messages about the leaked video. Taking it in her hands, the girl read each message, which were far from the nicest. Sobbing, May decided to call a friend. Only she could help her. Flooding with tears, she begged her friend, as if she could hear, to pick up the phone. At the same time, Xianka was dealing with other peers who were waiting for her and asked why she was clinging to their crash. She said that she had no idea who their crush was, and that she didn't need anyone and wasn't interested in anyone. Qian asked to pass because she had an urgent matter. One of the girls showed a picture of a boy from Jianxia, angrily asking how she could explain this. She tried to convince them that everyone knows this guy, because advertising with him at every step, and the fact that she knows him, does not mean that he knows her, and she said that he is just a frequent visitor where she works. Saying that her explanation should be enough, holding the bag tighter, Jianxia said she was getting out of here. When her phone rang, the girls rushed at her, one of them yelling for them to take her phone. The girl tried to fight back, asking what they were doing. In this cat of Asia, the phone fell out of the bag and fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. After hearing that the caller was out of range, May left a message on the answering machine saying that she was very tired. Jianxia tried to call May while running as fast as she could. She listened to her friend say that everyone was blaming her for the video going viral and that she wasn't a victim in their eyes. While Xian was running, May was saying goodbye. The girl stopped, looking at how her own friend flew down from the roof of a high-rise building. While everyone was gathering around, Jianxia just kept staring at her friend, not believing that she had actually jumped like that. She stared at the pool of blood and spatter that had landed on her white trainers. With a sudden movement, the girl fell on the asphalt next to the mutilated body of her friend because she could no longer stand. Throwing her head back and no longer holding back her sobs, Cheng screamed, choking back her screams and tears. The police chased the bystanders away from the body, and they only tried to catch the moment to take a photo and discussed that the girl was beautiful. Tsan was sitting in a chair with hot tea in her hand, and with her head down, She didn't react to the people around her, but she did hear the boys discussing her friend, standing a few steps behind. She grimaced with heartache when she heard about the photos that were walking on the internet and in the work chat. And one of them even asked for payment for sending a photo to another. The next moment he screamed as some kind of liquid poured into his face, and it was hot. Jianxia clutched a paper cup in her hand, staring unblinkingly at the boy, who asked if she was completely out of her mind. He just had a phone in his hand, which showed a photo of Mei from the back in the bathroom. The girl snatched the phone from his hand while he screamed. When she ran, he tried to poke her harder and shouted that she was crazy. After being punched in the back, Jianxia still fell face down on the floor, holding the phone tightly in her hand. The three of them tried to lift the girl up and take the phone, while Tsang deleted the photo on all devices and in the cloud storage. And then, the girl smiled easily, but tortured, when she saw that the photo was deleted without the possibility of recovery. It was the least she could do for Mei. When the security found out what had happened and the boy did not file a report with the police, she was released. Jianxia was tired of today. Looking down, she pondered that this was where Jia had jumped from Mei. The girl was devastated, apologizing to her friend for being late. She started pounding her fist, asking why this happened, but Mei jumped anyway, sobbing and shedding tears. Jianxia spoke, appealing to the god, if he exists, to hear her. She said that she was ready to give everything she had in exchange for one wish. She raised her head, looking at the guy she recognized from the billboards. He had horns, wings, and black hands. With a smile, he said that she had summoned him herself. She couldn't understand how it happened, asking him if it was really Bai Jihao. Jianxia remembered her mother and how she, stroking her hair, told a fairy tale about the devil. She remembered the plot of the fairy tale, where a newly married couple was waiting for the birth of their first child. But their lives were not as they thought. They were unable to give birth to a child, which left both of them devastated. One day, a handsome young man who called himself the devil came to them, attracted by a wish he could grant. But he said he wanted something of equal value in return. But the couple didn't hesitate. They extended their hands to him, agreeing to all the conditions. Jianxia then asked her mother how everything ended and whether they had given birth to a child after all. Mother, stroking her daughter's head, said with a smile that they really had a child. But the little girl did not lie and asked how this story with the devil could have a happy ending. Mom said with sadness that no person leaves the devil so easily, so he took the most valuable thing, the promise of lovers to be together forever. The girl was so impressed by the story that with an interested expression, she asked what was needed to meet the devil. Mom said with pain on her face that he would find her himself if she wanted something badly. But she told her not to ask the devil for anything, because the payment would be too great. Jianxia was now looking at the devil in the flesh, remembering her mother's words that she would lose much more than she would gain after meeting the devil. She looked at him, remembering that guy on the billboard. He looked too much like Bai Jihao, although there were still differences. Falling to her knees and bowing her head, Jianxia said that it was all his fault, while the devil himself stood silently and did not say a word. She remembered the incident with the girls who molested her through Bai and broke the phone, and she couldn't get to her friend in time. The girl screamed out of emotional pain, and tears welled up in her eyes again. She shouted that it was all his fault. He squinted, not understanding what was happening and what this girl was talking about. Jianxia ran at the boy, clenching her hand into a fist and bringing it back to strike. He held out his demonic hand with a raised thumb that glowed with blue light. She began to rise into the air, so she yelled for him to put her back down immediately. The boy said that he was here to fulfill her wishes and asked if she was sure that she wanted to vent all her anger on him, and not on the one with whom she wanted to settle scores. As she flew above the ground, Jianxia gritted her teeth in displeasure as she looked at the devil. She asked him to let her go, because she understood that he was not the real villain here. A second later, the devil was holding the girl's chin and looking directly into her eyes, until Jianxia herself opened her mouth in surprise from the teleportation. With a smile, he asked if she wanted revenge, because his scent was so strong that he could smell it. And then he asked why exactly. Bowing her head, she spoke about her friend Jiamei, that she should be filmed and shown to everyone at work. Then the anger took over, and she already emotionally talked about the fact that her friend endured the titles and insults that people called her, and then killed herself because she could not endure it anymore. Jianxia said that she must find whoever brought Mei to this state and avenge her. She asked him to fulfill her wish. And then she looked at the boy in surprise and confusion, because he said that the devil does not fulfill wishes just like that, and something is needed in return, and she only had a body shell. Saying that she has nothing interesting for him, Jihao turned and walked away while the girl stared at his back. But he turned, stopping when the girl cried out in despair that he could take her and her entire life in exchange for a wish. He laughed, asking if she really thought her life mattered to him because it was worthless and had no value. But when he returned, he said that Jianxia was the first person in 100 years who dared to raise a hand against him, and it was even funny. The devil approached the girl again, holding out a clawed finger and saying that he would grant her wish. The girl fell into the hands of the devil when her vision began to blur, and she did not understand whether her wish was fulfilled. He caught her, holding her so that she wouldn't fall. The next moment, Jihao shielded them both from the world with his wings while the girl was unconscious, and he held her too gently. The next day, the girl was lying in her bed in her room with a voice in her head saying that when she woke up, her wish would be granted. As soon as Kansha remembered what happened yesterday, she immediately jumped off the bed and screamed, remembering Jihao. She turned to the photograph by the bed. The girl thought it was a dream, because how can a superstar be a devil? After getting out of bed, Jianxia couldn't understand why she had fallen asleep in her clothes yesterday, but she immediately rushed to the mirror, looking with fear at the 2 marks on her neck from the teeth. Through the haze of her sleep, she remembered Bai Jihao bent over and bared his fangs yesterday. She was interrupted by the phone. Taking it in her hands, the girl began to read messages in the chat. Her company went bankrupt and everyone was paid and fired. Thinking that it was impossible, Jianxia turned on the TV to check the news. When the bankruptcy of Wang He Group was discussed in the news, the girl spoke about the story and thought that it could only be the work of the devil. Standing in front of the TV, the girl wondered if it was because of her desire. Sitting on the toilet, the boy was dissatisfied, tearing off the paper with a sharp movement, and he was not allowed to rest. A second later, he was peering through her window, asking with a smile if she had called him. The guy looked bored at her apartment, saying that she has a tiny apartment. Jianxia began to scream, poking at the TV, and asking what the hell was going on. But he said that it was her desire to take revenge for her friend. That girl said that he did not understand her, and that revenge is not to leave everyone unemployed. Jihao said that everything has consequences, but the girl told him to use his magic and undo everything, leaving it as it was. Showing his fangs, he said that they would turn back time, but she would have to pay for it. Jianxia said she was willing to pay just to avoid implicating the good and punishing the bad. The boy's eyes lit up red, and he began to look as if through time and space. The picture on the TV started to change. Now, instead of news about bankruptcy, there was some kind of music program. After checking her phone, where there was no notice of dismissal, the girl looked at Ji in surprise. "Who?" saying that he really can control time. The boy smiled smugly, saying that there was nothing he could not do. Jianxia hoped that this meant he could bring her friend back to life, but he shook his head, saying that even the devil has those prohibitions that can never be broken. He squinted, thinking that, no matter what, the girl had already made a wish. Mei's photo, thinking that he was the one who had to protect Kanxia instead of her friend. Standing in the middle of the Wang He Group building where she and her friend worked, the girl could hear colleagues discussing suicide and being more focused on meetings and other things. Jianxia came to pick up her friend's belongings, telling the bald man with the coffee in hand. He pointed to the side, saying that the cleaning lady had thrown away Jia's belongings. Mei is still in the morning. It was clear that the girl was trying to keep calm, but she asked how it happened that the person was gone only yesterday, and her things had already been thrown away in the morning. The man also began to raise his voice, saying that he wasn't the one who threw them away, and why was she screaming at him anyway, because Kanxia was talking louder and louder. He also said that no one wants to come to work and look at the belongings of the deceased. This, in his opinion, is embarrassing. And when she asked to repeat, the man said that he expected that the friend of the slut could not be adequate. As soon as the girl wanted to rush to hit the man who insulted Mei, someone's hand fell on her shoulder, stopping her. It was Han Xinqian, the head of the department, who said that they could talk and not distract others from their work. As they walked, the woman said that the man had simply misunderstood everything, and that Jia's things. They couldn't just throw Mei out, because she had worked here for several years. San patiently followed her with a box. When they got to the door, Xinqian said that everything was inside and asked her to close the door behind her when she left. She crouched down by the box, opening it and peering inside. Mei's things were neatly folded and boxed, and everything there reminded her of her. Looking at their joint photos, she almost cried, asking her friend why she was left to sort out the mess that happened after Mei's death. Clutching the photo of the two of them to her chest, Tsang cried and said she would take her home. At the same time, the makeup artist said that she had never seen Baiji Howie is so calm while she paints him, and he says he's just thinking about something. He told the girl that she must have a close friend, looking at her intently. Sitting in front of the mirror, he asked if she was ready to die for her best friend, but the girl immediately began to say that of course not. Remembering the determined expression on Kansha's face, who was ready for this, he said that that was the point. An ordinary person would not dare to take such a step. He was visibly displeased, but kept thinking that the girl was really not that simple. 11 years ago, John was walking home when the boys approached her, asking where her father was and whether she had poisoned him, and shouted that she was a real contagion and should not even be touched. And when one of them pulled her hair, he held her hand and said that he needed to wash her as soon as possible so that she wouldn't dry out. And the other laughed and joked that his friend would not have an arm now. Jianxia turned around with tears in her eyes, barely holding back her sobs at their looks. But then she appeared, another girl who, putting her hands on her sides, addressed the boys. She started shouting that she knew who they were and what class they were in, and that if they touched the girl again, she would tell the teachers about everything. The boys began to make excuses that the girl did not understand the jokes at all and were going to go home as soon as possible. Both girls looked after them as the boys ran away, and then the unfamiliar girl bent over, exhaling with relief. Tizan's eyes with interest. She asked how she was feeling. It was clear from her huge eyes that she was also afraid, and also from the way she was clutching her hands on her backpack. Tizan, seeing this, could not believe it. She was also afraid. Unable to contain her emotions anymore, Kinsha sobbed as the stranger tried her best to calm her down. They were walking somehow, and Mei kept measuring their height, saying that Song was 3 years younger, but taller, and now everyone would think she was the younger sister. She said that she should look like an older sister and protect her, because only there you can get revenge on those boys. Chan clenched her fists at the word that she was huge. Mei said, with a smile, that she didn't like whiners. With a dignified look, the girl said that she does not open her mouth, and also raised her head. And Mei, who was walking behind, laughed, saying that she could bet that she was the one still crying. A few years later, Kansha joyfully raised her hand and waved at the girl, calling her friend by name. With a bouquet of flowers, she was smiling from the other end of the road, telling San to be faster. In order to see her friend closer as soon as possible, Kansha ran across the road wearing headphones, not hearing anything around her. Behind the wheel of the car sat a drunk driver who could not understand what was happening on the road and was driving at high speed. Jiamei shouted loudly to her friend that the car was there and that she should not cross the road now, her eyes widening in horror. At the last moment in front of the car, she was pushed in the direction of Mei, jumping under the car herself. There was an open article in the phone about a girl who had a great future because she once again took the prize place at the competition. It was about Jiamei. While she thought, the coffee machine was already pouring coffee over the edge, as the boy told her, standing behind and turning off the machine. Snapping out of her thoughts, the girl began to apologize, taking a step back and bumping into the boy, but then realized that it was only Xingnan. The guy with a smile asked the girl what she was thinking about so much. When she lied, Sin said that he understood that Mei had died recently and that she was still grieving for her friend. Tisan stared at him with her mouth open in surprise. The boy looked directly at the girl, saying that he felt sorry for Mei and that she was good, and asked if she knew who the girl had been seeing. But Chen thought with a stony expression that Mei didn't tell anyone that she had someone, because it was a secret. She said that the guy didn't want to show off everything, so her friend even told her who he was, while Xingnan tried to hide a satisfied smile. But then he changed his face, saying that if only he had answered her confession last year, she wouldn't have met such a bad guy. And when he began to tell that he liked no one as much as Mei, Jianxia turned around and, taking the coffee, said that she was going back to work. But when he stopped her, Xingnan said that he knew that she had taken care of all the funeral expenses and told her that if she needed help, she should call him. And although she thanked, one could see that the girl was thinking about the reasons for such behavior. While Jianxia was looking at the message from the cafe owner, everyone ran to the windows like crazy because there was a celebrity outside. Turning her head towards the entrance, she tried to see who it was and thought that it surely couldn't be a simple coincidence. Holding one of her colleagues by the hand, she asked who had come to them, and she answered that it was Bai Jihao said that she just adores him and they should go see him more closely. The girl pulled Jianxia, telling them to run faster because there would be no room left, while she tried to catch her breath and begged them not to run so fast. The guy was standing on the sidewalk while everyone was discussing him and what he looked like and what his build was. While everyone was discussing Jiho, Jianxia closed her eyes from nerves, thinking that she would kill him because she asked him not to do anything. Raising his head, the boy waved and smiled, and everyone started squealing, asking if he was waving to someone from their floor. Jianxia ordered herself not to look at the boy, while the girls around discussed that he seemed to want to say something. Jiho said with a smile so that everyone could understand, lip-reading, Tan Kanxia. He was addressing her. Jianxia talked about herself again, mentioning the pact with the devil that comes in the form of Bai Jihao is the star of millions. The first rule he told her was that she should not think or call to him in the middle of the night because it would disturb his precious sleep. She recalled that even after a week, the traces of his bite, which he made at the time of signing the contract, did not disappear from her. Another rule is that she must always give something in return when she asks him for something. And the third, she had only 3 months left to live. As he explained, if he bites her again, she will turn away sooner. Once he took her phone, and while Jianxia was screaming what he was doing, the devil added his phone number, but told her not to call for petty things. He threw the phone at her, saying it was a blessing to have his number, but she waved it away, trying to grab the smartphone. Colleagues said that Bai Jiho will be the face of a new cosmetics campaign, while Kanxia was listening to all these fables thoughtfully. As soon as the elevator doors opened, the entire corridor was filled with screams. Everyone was happy to see Jihao and congratulated him. The boy snapped his fingers with a smile as he looked at the crowd. Everyone around them froze, but not Kanxia. She was standing among them and clearly stood out in the crowd. Frightened, the girl began to look around, not understanding what was happening. He asked why Kanxia was standing there in the crowd and told her to come to him with a smile. But she obeyed and walked through the frozen crowd, thinking that they were even scarier when frozen. And as soon as the girl stood next to him, he clicked his fingers, and time began to flow again in the usual way. She asked if she correctly understood that he took these minutes from her years of life. As soon as the devil replied in the affirmative with a smile, Jianxia even clenched her hand into a fist, cursing the demon. He asked if she knew where to start the search, glancing at her. The girl said that the person who leaked May's photo must be close to her, whom she often saw, and said that she already had several suspects. The first was boss Jiamei is Han Xinqian, because she always made her friend's life difficult. The second was an old man from her department, who was a nasty type and always bullied her. And the third is Luo Xingnan, with whom the friend was never wary, because she trusted him. While she was thinking, Jihao leaned over to her and asked what was next. She turned away in fear, telling him not to bend down so suddenly. And then she was completely surprised when he flirtatiously asked if she was really capable of thinking about another man when he was around. And then they both told each other that they were weird. They both sat and looked at the elevator doors, and Jihao told her not to trust men, especially if they were handsome. And the girl asked if he should too. And then he said with a smile that no, because he is a demon. He made Kanxia exhale noisily, just to show his displeasure. They stared at the reflection, while the devil asked the girl if she always looked like she did now. Holding out his hand, he watched as she flinched and said that the girl looked as if she could be easily intimidated. Taking a lock of her hair, he said that she was not worthy to be one of his people. At the same time, Jianxia was looking at the boy's lips that were right in front of her, and he said that even women who go to take revenge or fight on the battlefield change their behavior. Bai Jihao bent down and, taking the girl by the chin, left a kiss on her forehead. Then, a kind of fog filled the elevator that was both black and blue at the same time as the girl asked what was going on, but thought her body was on fire. While the guard was standing in front of the closed elevator door, the people around did not understand what was happening and why they had all gathered here. The guard began to look around, not understanding what to do with him. Meanwhile, Bai Jihao looked pleased with himself with his eyes closed, and said that Kanxia looked very vengeful now. The girl looked at her reflection in the elevator, examining herself. She couldn't believe her own eyes when she saw her reflection, because now she was herself, but still completely different. Looking at her current self, the girl blushed, saying that maybe she needed a transformation, but not in the same way. But the devil said with a smile that he took into account her words that she didn't like him biting her neck, so he thought of another way. While the girl was mumbling pointlessly, he heard the sound of the elevator, saying that they had already arrived. The door opened and everyone greeted him, saying how glad they were to see him at the Wang He group while the girl stood by. Many cameras were aimed at them. Everyone wanted to grab a few minutes with Bai Ji Hao. Taking a step forward, the boy turned his head to the side and, turning to Jianxia, told her to follow him. The girl thought to herself, looking at his back, "What is so attractive about this devil?" While they passed, everyone addressed only him. They said that they were glad to welcome him, that they adored him, and Ji Hao just smiled and waved. The boy was smiling, but he listened to everything the people around him were thinking, talking about Jianxia and calling her a rascal and saying that she, like her dead friend, could seduce men. He asked, not paying attention to her, how she managed to have such poor relations with people because they only think about her and that badly. Looking at the crowd, she told the devil to take away the information she didn't need. Turning away from them, the girl said that she did not care how people saw her, but thought to herself that she should use the time she had left to her advantage. Jianxia White is determined to find the person who caused Jia's suicide May, which was reflected on her face. Bai Ji Ho said that he had a meeting now, and while he was there, he asked Sang to buy him candies, but only the ones with his image on them because he was allergic to others. The girl was sitting in front of the snack machine when something dripped on her head. Looking at the candy with the boy's image, she thought about the fact that if you tell someone, they won't believe it, because the devil loves candy. She stood up and looked at the door when she heard a creak. A guy was watching her there, leaning against the emergency exit window. The girl screamed, frightened by what she saw. When the unknown person disappeared, the girl rushed after him, running to the emergency stairs. He ran, looking around as the girl yelled for him to stand still and not move while Jianxia tried to catch up with him. Finally, having caught the unknown man, the girl shouted that he heard her while he was running and asked why he continued to run. The unknown boy began to shake, saying that he was just passing by. The girl narrowed her eyes, saying that she knew him, remembering that he was one of those who worked with May. She asked if she remembered correctly. She kept her eyes on the boy, saying that he definitely knew something about Jia's death May. He said that if he knew why, it was not important now, and asked why she did it. Chan gritted her teeth, thinking to herself that he did know something. She grabbed the boy by the breasts, shouting that she was really dead and would not come back. But she was dead because she could not bear the ridicule of those around her. And therefore, if he knows something, now is the time to tell. She said that she would not allow her friend to disappear without a trace, and shouted that she would definitely find the person who took and distributed those photos. He questioned whether to trust her, and then said that she is just a girl with no one behind her. She froze when she heard this, but immediately remembered the image of the devil. She calmly said that he would be wrong and that she was not alone. The boy was happy to hear this and said that maybe what he knows is not so important. But Jianxia told him to speak, and she would decide the rest. He remembered the time when Jiamei just joined the company 3 years ago. He said that he really liked her then, but he understood that he would never get someone like May. He recalled that he had been watching the girl for 3 years. And then, according to his story, Luo Xingnan appeared, with whom she became close, and asked Khan if she knew who this guy was. The boy spoke, recalling that Xingnan never loved May, and later broke her heart, and she clung to him. He said that at first he thought that all the girl's problems were from an unhappy love, but there was something else. Chan looked at him questioningly. The guy said that after the fight with that Xingnan, May no longer went to the toilet on the 12th floor, using the ones on the 11th or 13th, and warned others not to go there. Surprised, Jianxia asked about the toilet, and the boy said that it was, and asked if she thought it was strange. And then, May committed suicide. Putting her hand to her mouth in thought, the girl mentally asked herself what secret she was hiding in that toilet on the 12th floor. While at the meeting, he was told about the brands, decorative cosmetics, of which they wanted to make Ji the face How. He scribbled something on paper boredly. Noticing Jianxia, he turned and looked at her and his bodyguard, to whom the girl was telling something. Clutching his pen, he only looked at those two, thinking only of what they could be talking about right now. Listening, he heard that Qian was asking the guard to hand over Bai Jihao, that she will be on the 12th floor and meet them after the meeting. And, holding out a candy, she asked me to hand it over as well, in case she surprised the guard. Jealous of the girl and telling himself that they were having too much fun, he used his power and thought with a smile how much fun they would have now. The guard wanted to say something, but nothing came out of him. The veins on the boy's face were bulging from the strain, but he only mumbled, "Gee's handiwork how." She turned to him, her face twisted in anger. He texted the girl when she ignored the guy waving, but she ignored the text. The man who was giving a presentation and talking about cooperation asked Jiho, "Is he satisfied with all the conditions?" He stared at the phone screen until the girl did not answer him, and the man did try to call Ji Hao. The devil even began to bite his lips, checking to see if she had answered, nervous that she hadn't yet. The man smiled awkwardly, saying that it looks like Bai Jihao is very puzzled by the collaboration. Raising his head, the boy said that he does not mind if they even make him a representative of the whole world, but he has one condition. When everyone agreed, the devil said that he wanted Jianxia from the advertising department to be his assistant. One of the men said that the girl was new and had no experience, and assured him that he would find an experienced assistant for him. But the devil said that he only needed this girl, and without her, there would be no contract. Meanwhile, Jianxia on the 12th floor went to the toilet and carefully looked around while holding a sign that said, "Repair." Looking around, the girl could not understand what was wrong, because everything was as usual, and she asked herself why her friend was running away. Entering the booth, she thought about Jia being in this place. Mei was afraid of only one thing, a hidden camera. She began looking for where the camera might be hidden, picking up the toilet seat as the first place to plant it. Then the girl began to check the box with the paper, doing everything very scrupulously. Unlocking the cabin door, the girl confusedly thought that there was nothing here. However, the next moment, the girl looked down at the castle, thinking that the camera might be right there. More embarrassed guards stood at the door of the toilet, holding out the tools that Bai Ji had asked her to hand over. How? She apologized for being a distraction, but asked her husband to help her remove the lock, pointing at it with her finger. Ji's words before helping Hao, who asked who she thought he was, a boy on the run, if she didn't answer his messages. Jianxia was at a loss as she listened to all this, not even knowing what to say. Putting his glasses back on, the guard said he was now ready to help her with the lock. After removing the lock, the guard looked in surprise at the hidden camera hanging from a short wire. After looking over everything, the man said that someone had already taken the memory card. And there is also damage on the case, because they tried to disassemble it, and that was recently. The girl thought about the fact that the memory card was taken, but the camera itself was left in place. She asked if the person could put the card back in at any moment. The guard began to say, handing over the device, that installing such a thing in the women's restroom is a complete lawlessness. Xiao wondered why it didn't match, because the person who installed the camera should have inserted a new memory card right away. So someone else took the card. After some time, the guard said goodbye to the girl, leaving the restroom with the tools. She overheard two girls discussing why something was always being repaired and only on the 12th floor. Apologizing for bothering her, the girl asked if this toilet had really been renovated recently and when exactly it was. Jianxia was very grateful to the girls who said that there was a repair yesterday, and that was just when the police were coming because of the girl who had committed suicide. She leaned thoughtfully against the wall, telling herself that it happened just as he appeared. Bai Ji Hao. Shan began to look around, wondering where he had gone, when her phone rang. Pulling out her phone, she checked what the message was, and then she rolled her eyes after reading what Ji wrote Hao. He asked if she thought he would show up at the first call. She did not understand what he was offended by. The girl's phone even cracked in her hand when she asked how to call him, because she found a trick. He told her to call him Mr. Devil, and only then would he think about it. Jianxia was waiting for the boy at the emergency exit, as agreed, when evening came. When the girl opened the door for him, hiding behind her cap, Ji Hao asked with a smile what she was thinking about and whether she was dreaming about him. Turning her back to him, Tsan asked if he had learned to read minds yet. The guy said that he can read, but he still cannot understand her thoughts, because she is too strange a woman. Turning to him, Jianxia told him to tell her exactly how strange she was, and added his favorite, Mr. Devil. The devil looked at her from top to bottom, unblinking and very attentive, but said nothing. When Song turned and walked down the hall, he was emotionally unstable, bouncing inside at how appetizing she was, and he would bite her to death. After a few minutes, he stood and looked at the women's toilet, not understanding what he was doing here. He began to joke that she called him because she smelled a bad smell in the toilet, but the girl clearly did not share his fun. That girl showed the camera, saying that this is what she found in this toilet. Tsang said Mei might not have died because of that, but she might have suspected the cameras. While he was thinking, the girl continued, saying that someone had taken the memory card and hoped that the devil would help her find the person who now had the card. Bowing her head, the girl said that she hoped that the card or the person who took it would answer all her questions. He said that he did not see cameras here and asked how they would look for them, but the girl angrily said that this was exactly what she had called him for. She took out a bunch of candies of different flavors, showing them to the boy. He stood and thought how she manages everything and that there are strawberry candies, and he loves them very much. Sighing, he asked if he understood correctly that she wanted him to touch the camera, to go back in time and see what was really there. Jianxia happily asked if he could really do such a thing. Opening one eye, he looked at the girl and said that he could, but not for the few candies she brought. The girl pulled back the edge of her t-shirt with a smile, hinting at how exactly he wanted her to thank him for his help. Blushing even on his ears, the boy lowered his head and covered himself with a cap, thinking that he hated this woman. Looking at the girl with the red eye of the devil, the boy told her to give him the thing and snatched the camera from her hands. She looked questioningly at the boy, not understanding what was happening. His cap flew off, and Ji himself stood as if in a cloud of smoke, and a smoky black-red substance was growing under his feet. With slight fear, the girl immediately looked at the boy, now seeing in front of her what he really was, a devil with red pupils and black squirrels. Extending a black-clawed hand to the girl, he ordered her to give him the camera. Spreading his wings, he began to concentrate, holding the camera in his hand and bowing his head down. On the night of yesterday, where the boy moved, a man was sitting in front of a panoramic window overlooking the city. Crossing one leg over the other, he swirled the wineglass without even touching it and said that he was very insolent, calling him as he called Can, Mr. Devil. All the workers heard that a meeting was planned. Their boss was standing in the middle of the hall and told everyone to be in the conference hall in 5 minutes. One of the girls said that now she would have to miss lunch because of the meeting, and the other assured that everything was fine and everything would not be so bad. She began to wave her hand, saying that she had been touched by something furry, and the other said that madness was no reason to skip a meeting. Clutching his wings, he winced in pain as the girl hit his sensitive wings painfully. The devil thought he should complain to Kanxia about this. Ji Hao looked at the watch on his wrist, telling himself that it was about to start. These were the last minutes before the girl's jump. Hearing someone say, Jiamei, that the conference hall is on the other side, the devil slanted his eyes to the side. She assured that she had gone to wash her hands, and now she would catch up with everyone, and the other girl said that she was a little pale and recommended not to push herself. Leaning in front of the girl while she was walking, he thought to himself that she was much prettier than in the photo, but decided that Kanxia was still prettier. Ji Hao stood in front of her and said with a smile that if she died, one girl would be very upset. But Mei just walked through it without even noticing anything out of the ordinary. The boy grew serious, thinking about what they said, as if even the devil could not stop someone who decided to die. As the girl began to climb the stairs, her boss appeared there, calling her and telling her to keep Mei close to her during the meeting. The devil did not understand who she was. She apologized to her boss, saying that she would rather rest for a while. The woman told the girl to stop apologizing, because it was not her fault and that she herself was uncomfortable with it. She let the girl go if she wanted to rest. Jiamei asked the woman if she knew them, but it sounded more like a statement of fact. While she was silent, the girl sadly continued to ask why the boss did not intervene and warn her, because she knew exactly what was happening. After all, if she had helped her from the very beginning, Mei did not say that she would, definitely, but she thought that she would find the strength to live on. The devil watched in a little surprised silence, trying to catch all the details. Xin Qian called out to the girl again as she entered the stairs once more. Turning around, she said with a smile that she did not blame the woman and that she would remember her as a good person. The boss clutched the flash drive in her pocket, looking fearfully at Mei's back as she went upstairs. The devil angrily watched what was happening, thinking only that this was normal human nature and that they were much more complicated than devils. Turning his attention to his wristwatch again, the devil understood. The time. He stood nearby and looked at Boss May, who was almost glued to the window. Covering her mouth with her hand so as not to make a sound, the woman began to tremble with sobs. While the woman sobbed, the devil turned and walked away, thinking only that he had lived for many years, but had never been able to understand people. Chaos reigned around, and in the toilet there was a guy with a bandage and a face, displaying a sign with the inscription, "Repair." He watched with his head bowed as the unknown man with a mask on his face called someone and said that she had disappeared. Jianxia leaned against the wall and thought that the devil was lingering because half an hour had already passed. She stared in confusion at the empty space in front of her, thinking that she felt, as she had in the morning, that someone was watching her. While the girl was thinking that she should not dwell on this and that it was due to overwork, a black and red hole appeared in the corridor. He was barely able to stay on his feet, falling when he called out to Jianxia, who was already running to help him. He fell, and the girl tried to hold the boy so that he did not fall to the floor. She was visibly in pain. He didn't say anything more, and the girl tried to find out what was wrong with him and whether he could tell her anything at all. He finally said that he had spent a lot of energy, and his head was spinning, and he needed sugar because he was hypoglycemic. Jianxia had already screamed when she heard this, but the boy asked her not to go and stay with him like this for a little while longer. The girl started touching him, asking why he was so cold. He said that he is a devil and his body temperature is different from that of humans, and added that girls always have some complaints against him. Saying that she would be more careful, the girl offered to go somewhere so that they would not be seen. The girl wove ordinary food into both cheeks, and Bai Jihao grabbed another packet of sugar and sweets. She asked if the boy would like to try it, because the food here is delicious. He began to tell that the devil was allergic to human food and described the symptoms, saying that he only ate sugar. She started laughing, saying that it was very funny, because the almighty devil is allergic to ordinary food. Blushing, he squeezed the sugar packet and told her not to call him that again, but the girl said that he himself had asked. Ji Hao said he will be recovering from this trip for several days, and the sugar is helping him recover faster, and he also said that she may not call him because he will not appear at that time. Jianxia could be seen guiltily looking at the boy, apologizing because she didn't know it would be so difficult for him. He said that the girl should think that he was seriously ill and that he needed not only rest, but also care, hinting very vaguely that if he continued to exert himself. After asking what was going to happen, the boy said that he didn't know, because he never stressed himself. Jianxia said that he could tell. The girl asked him to tell about what he had seen there in the past. Jianxia sat and thought after Ji's story, how about why the boss took the memory card, who the man in the toilet was, and who they were. And while the girl was thinking about something, Bai Jiho said that Han Xinqian is a key figure in the story, and if she speaks, things will become much clearer. Lowering her head, the girl said that she needed to talk to the boss of the financial department because she agreed with the words of the devil. While the boy asked to leave everything until tomorrow because he really wanted to sleep, the girl thought with a smile that she was very grateful to Ji Hao. Opening the door to her apartment, she breathed a sigh of relief, telling herself that she was finally home. She entered the bathroom, taking off her top and going to the sink. She saw a silhouette behind the shower curtain in the reflection of the mirror, at which she squinted. Jianxia trembled with fear, but she turned on the faucet and began to wash her hands, pretending not to notice anyone. The masked stranger stood and waited, not moving or showing signs of life behind this curtain. She widened her eyes, trying to force herself to calm down as she turned off the faucet and washed her hands. On her way out of the bathroom, she saw the phone lying on the kitchen counter. Turning on the recording, she began to act out the dialogue, asking why she needed it so late, and then pretended that she was called for dinner and was already waiting downstairs. Jianxia continued, saying that she planned to take a shower and sleep, but she agreed to go out for dinner. She had almost opened the door when it slammed shut. Looking around, she saw a masked boy standing right behind her, holding the door so she wouldn't open it again, asking where she had gone without her shoes. The girl screamed in pain when the unknown man grabbed her by the hair and pulled her. She fell face down on the floor, lying and recoiling from the impact. She grabbed onto the kitchen furniture and screamed for the boy not to touch her and to let go while he pulled her by the leg. Jianxia screamed until she was hoarse, begging for someone to help her. Covering her mouth, the unknown man told her to shut up. He painfully hit the girl with her face on the floor, ordering her to shut up. Blood splattered on the floor. Out of desperation, While she was pinned to the floor, she called out to the only one who could help, Bai Ji Hao. She saw the phone that had rolled under the sofa. Apparently, it was still recording everything that was happening. The man said he would let her go, but she wouldn't scream, and then asked if she understood. She nodded, even though it was problematic, agreeing to it. Jianxia tried to breathe normally, gasping for air with her mouth. When she returned, she told the boy to take everything he wanted: money, credit cards, equipment, as long as he did not touch her, and left. But when the unknown man asked where she was, the girl said that she did not understand what he was talking about. But he repeated it anyway, asking the same thing. Grabbing the girl by the hair, he made her scream, but ordered her to shut up and also said that he knew she was looking for it. He lifted the girl by the breasts, asking if she really thought he was a fool. But as soon as the bell rang, he immediately released the girl to the floor. After answering, the unknown man said that she had returned earlier, but it was not possible to find what he was looking for, and there are no problems with the girl. Crying in pain and fear, Jianxia thought about who this guy was talking to on the phone and who he was reporting to. The unknown took a photo of Jianxia and Jiamei, saying that she was lucky today. Holding her by the hair, the boy showed her a photo with her friend and told her not to get involved, especially with Mei. And then, with a swing, he punched the girl in the face, using all the strength he had. The girl woke up to the sound of someone knocking, but she could not understand where the sound was coming from and who was there. Baiji's bodyguard Hao opened the door with his foot when she didn't answer. He saw the girl lying on the floor, but he was not jokingly scared. After placing the girl on the sofa, the guard asked what happened to her, because she hit her head badly, while she said that someone had been in her apartment and was looking for something when she returned. Jianxia tried to stop her dizziness as the guard hatefully asked if she knew who it was. She asked why he came here, and the man said that Ji Hao had a bad feeling and sent him to check on the situation. Barely remaining conscious, the girl, however, realized that the devil knew that she was calling him and understood it. Remembering the phone, she fell to the floor and began to look for the smartphone, which had rolled there. She smiled, saying that although she did not remember what the attacker looked like, she had a recording of his voice. 15 minutes later, the police stood by her house and questioned the girl about enemies or those with whom she quarreled. One of the policemen said that for now, it would be better for her to stay with her friends until they find the person who attacked her. He pointed to a photo with a friend, asking whether it was necessary to take the girl to this same friend. The security guard put out the phone, where Baiji was screaming in anger on the other end, "How?" telling him to quickly bring the girl directly to him while she listened. She couldn't believe what she heard. Is she really going to Bai's home? And then she smiled a little dreamily, saying that of course she would go. The guy sat and looked at the elevator door, lamenting why she hadn't come yet. Maybe something else had happened. Ji-ho thought that it was still unknown how serious the wound on her forehead was, but he could still fix her face if needed. Sneezing, he decided that as soon as the girl came, he would study her thoroughly. As soon as the doorbell rang, the boy jumped to his feet and shouted for the visitor to come in, walking towards him. Jianxia and the guard were both startled, as the devil screamed too loudly upon seeing her appearance. She listened in amazement as the devil did not shut up, asking why she had come only now and telling her to come out and show him her wounds. But she, hearing that he would punish those who did this, only smiled and said that she was fine. Baiji Hao looked at her in surprise, no longer lamenting, but only asking if she was really all right. Wrapping himself in a blanket, he asked why she was standing there on the threshold and to pass quickly. She asked why the guard hadn't come in, and the boy replied that he would be here in 5 minutes, heading deep into his apartment. And the devil does not need the protection of people. Stopping in front of a huge portrait of Ji-ho, the girl said that this is definitely his house. He said that today, the girl will sleep in the living room, where there is a picture of him, so he will be near, and the girl will not be afraid. Throwing a towel at Jianxia, the devil told where the bathroom was so she could freshen up before going to bed. Looking closely, she realized that it was not a towel, but pajamas, and also branded and neatly folded. Closing her eyes, she stood under the hot shower and tried to relax. Remembering what happened to her in her apartment, she asked Mei if she was just as scared then. The girl even hugged herself from her own fear. Standing under the bathroom door, Ji-ho asked if everything was okay and said he would throw out all the food if it got stuck in the shower. He knew what she was thinking, but seriously thought about the fact that he would not forgive those who did this to the girl. Weed raised his head to the steps, asking Jianxia if she wanted anything. She went downstairs, and the boy asked why she was here because he told her to go to sleep, and the girl said that she was awake. Sitting on the couch and hugging herself, she admitted that she couldn't sleep here. Jihao said he would turn off the light now, but the girl asked him not to and to leave it on. She lay down next to him, curled up, because she felt safe with the devil. Jianxia admitted that when she was attacked, she cried out his name out of desperation. Returning to her, the boy quietly said that he heard that scream. He heard the girl telling him to show up on time the next time, but he didn't answer. Covering her with a blanket, which he wrapped himself in recently, he promised that he would definitely be on time, and then told the girl to sleep. Looking at the girl without blinking, the boy said that he swears by the name of the devil that he will not deceive her and will be on time. When Tishan fell asleep, the boy carefully got up from the sofa so as not to wake her up. Crouching opposite, he looked at her and thought that this girl was strange as hell, that she could sleep so soundly next to the devil. He reached out, touching the pad of his finger to her face. Bowing his head, he thought about the fact that he was the one who would soon take her life because he was the devil. The man tried to postpone his 3 months, saying that he was his devil and the man himself was his master. And the woman shouted that she would not run away anyway and asked how much money was needed to terminate the contract, because she had it. The other screamed for him not to come, as if it could save her. He remembered how he always watched all of this, but the end was always the same. He was only fulfilling their wishes. Touching her with his finger while the girl slept, the devil asked her what Jianxia herself would be like when the time came to fulfill her part of the deal. She was in an incomprehensible space and could not understand who was calling her. Mei was sitting in front of her, hugging her knees and looking very guilty. Strangers' hands entangled her, and the girl screamed, asking her friend to help her. The hands began to grab her as well, preventing her from moving, while Jianxia tried to get out and help her friend. Jiamei screamed and called out to Kan, while she thought that she should make it this time. With a sharp movement, the girl sat down on the sofa, on which she fell asleep, returning to reality and realizing that it was just a dream. She looked down guiltily, asking her friend for forgiveness once more. Noticing the boy, she got up from the couch and sat across from him, mentally asking if he was protecting her, because he fell asleep right here, sitting on the floor. She reached for his hair, mentally thanking Bai Jihao. As he mumbled something in his dream about strawberry candies, she tickled his pointed ears. She thought it was risky, but it seemed she got carried away, because the devil was still asleep. Covering him with a blanket, with which he had covered her before, the girl quietly said that it was so strange, because he was the devil, and she was not afraid of him at all. Jianxia noticed a photo album on the shelf, so she took it with a satisfied smile, although she had time to be disappointed because there were no relics in it. In the first photo, there was a man in aristocratic clothes, who was smiling, looking into the camera, and then a grown man in a suit with a handkerchief in his breast pocket. And there was a photo of a very beautiful girl, about whom Zia thought it was unfair to choose such an appearance. And there was a childhood photo where he was an incredibly cute child. Looking at the modern photo, the girl thought about what exactly happened and why he is always alone in the photos. He, standing behind her, said that His Majesty was the devil in the photos and that it was cool that he could change his appearance, when the girl loudly closed the album. Returning to Jiho, she asked if he was the only devil on earth. The girl even covered her ears when he started screeching, asking if he alone wasn't enough for her, and calling her a windy human woman. The next moment, the girl was running away because the devil began to roar and asked if he was hungry. And then she said with satisfaction that she wanted to fulfill his wish, knowing that he only eats sweets. The girl said that the pastry shop where she works in his building is now closed, but she can cook something exclusively delicious for the boy. Thinking about their first meeting in that pastry shop and whether it was as random as she first thought. After hearing that the pastry shop belonged to him, Jianxia said that she did not want to go anywhere. While she was cooking, the devil asked if this was the hot shop, but she said, addressing Mr. Devil, not to pretend he was seeing everything for the first time. He clenched his teeth, telling her not to call her that again, and reminding her that he had already asked for it. Jianxia put on her robe with a smile, saying that the owner said that the pastry shop only serves the most expensive customers, which is why it always smells so sweet. She glared at Bai, saying that he was the special customer. Blushing, he said that he was all in her hands, because he really wanted her to cook something very sweet and delicious. While Jianxia was cooking, he sat across from her and asked her if she regretted giving him her life and surviving the attack. She said that all people have regrets, But, raising his head and looking at Jihao, the girl said that this is exactly what she does not regret for a minute. She asked, a little embarrassed, if she would meet Jia after she died. May. Looking at her, the devil said yes, but he only thought that it was a lie she wanted to believe. When he had eaten, the boy rubbed his belly contentedly and licked himself while Xian asked with a smile if he had enjoyed it. He said he was very hungry and didn't fully understand, but if she cooked it all for him again. Lowering her head and hiding her smile, the girl said that today was the day of Jia's funeral. May. Putting his hand to his heart, the devil said that he would go with her. But the guard held the boy while he screamed for him to let him go because he wanted to leave with Jianxia. When the security guard said that the whole day was a commercial shoot, the girl said that everything was fine and she could go on her own. The man said that then he had to pay a fine, and the man shouted for the guard to pay because he had a lot of money. Throwing Jihao in the car, the guard quickly closed the door to take him to the shooting. The girl asked if it wouldn't be difficult for the man to wait until the boy was thoroughly tired, and then she would give him something to eat and handed him a box of sweets. The security guard said that it was not difficult for him. Not hearing the conversation, but seeing everything through the glass, the devil shouted that this would allow sharing the cake that was for him with someone else. In the funeral hall, there was a photo of May. Many flowers, and a lonely old woman was sitting. Raising her head, she asked Jianxia to come closer. Kneeling before her grandmother, she cried, saying that she was very sorry. She stroked the girl's hair and told her to be strong. Grandma said that May wouldn't be able to find peace if they kept crying, and the girl thought she was lying to Grandma for the sake of not telling her that May had killed herself. Paying attention to Jia's photo May, the grandmother said that the girl looked so happy on her smiling. For the sake of her grandmother, she wiped her tears, saying that she was not crying. People appeared in the bureau. It was Han Xinqian, May's boss, and the two men behind her. She was holding a bouquet of flowers. The woman, together with everyone, bowed her head, placing flowers in front of the girl's portrait. Han Xin told her grandmother to think about her health and gave the envelope, which was help from the entire team of workers. But the grandmother said that she could not accept the money. Jianxia asked the woman to go and talk one-on-one under the surprised look of the grandmother. The boss asked if the girl would smoke, but she said she didn't and wouldn't recommend her to smoke in this building. She started to ask why she was called, but John interrupted her and directly asked if she really had the memory card from the camera. She tried to pretend that she did not understand what the girl was talking about. The girl showed the scar, saying that she found the camera in the toilet, and the same evening they broke into her home and beat her. The woman asked why the girl had to dig and understand all this, but she said that she did not want another Jia Tihuhiru to appear May, that he will not be able to live with the burden of all this. Turning, the boss walked away, apologizing and saying that she had nothing to say. Returning, she asked the woman in her back with desperation who they were, whom May had talked about in her conversation with her boss. The boys discussed Jiamei and how delicate she was. One of them even smoked, although he quit, because he and his wife want a child. And he also said that when the girl was alive, it was necessary to communicate with her more. Another said sadly that they are so arranged and don't notice until it's too late, but May was so considerate of everyone and always supportive. He said she must have been scared that they were involved in the photo too. The one who was smoking began to swear that he was receiving that file, but he did not open it. Another said he was better than he looked, but the boy asked if his colleague would come here if he saw those pictures. They discussed that few people really came, and it was the most senseless death and burial, all because the young girl had passed away earlier and that she would have gone mad if she found out about the photo. But the grandmother was standing at the door, asking the two boys what all this meant. With tears in her eyes, she asked the boys if her little girl had died by accident. The boys bowed to their grandmother, asking her not to cry, and said that they would explain everything now. Clutching the jacket of one of her granddaughter's colleagues in anguish, she asked if she had committed suicide. Grandma knelt in front of May's photo and then leaned over, sobbing from all that she had heard. Boss and Jianxia looked at what was happening in surprise as they walked back after the conversation. Jianxia ran to her grandmother to comfort her, but she was still sobbing too loudly. Xinqian asked her subordinates what was going on here, and they began to awkwardly say that the grandmother had overheard their conversation about Jiamei. The girl cried herself, standing there and thinking that she would not be able to forget her grandmother's sobs of pain and despair for the rest of her life. She did not return to the boss, but told her to give her. The woman told the boys to go home first without even coming back to them. The grandmother hugged the photo and held it close to her, while Jianxia sat on her lap next to her and bowed her head. She heard, leaning even harder, that Grandma Jia said that her little girl was hopeless until her death. Crying, she said that an old woman like her could do nothing but sit here and cry.
Hugging the photo tighter, she sobbed that she should have died, not her grandson.
Jianxia stood up and seriously and firmly told her grandmother to trust her. Hugging her grandmother, the girl thought that once her tears dried, she would feel better. Leaving the hall after more than 2 hours, the girl noticed that Han was sitting in the chair. Xinqian waited patiently. Stopping, the girl asked why she was still here, while she bowed her head. The woman, looking directly into Zia's eyes, said that Jiamei was not as strong as her friend thought, and even if she told her everything, she wasn't sure if Qian could handle such a truth. Rubbing her eyes, which were starting to water again, she said she could take it. Looking away, the woman said that Jia was not the only victim May, but only she took such a desperate step, and that she was one of the first. The girl opened her mouth in surprise, questioning, because she could not believe it. It was 7 years ago. Xinqian had just come to take a job at the Wang He Group, which only hired 20 new employees that year. When she was hired, the girl was very happy, telling the boss that she would not let him and the company down. She remembered herself then, because she thought that everything was fair, but then she realized that the company had plunged into darkness. She also remembered how she came to the boss, asking why her name was not on the project she was working on. But he calmly stood to himself, looked at the documents, and asked what should be done before entering the office. All the girl's pride disappeared somewhere. She guiltily bowed her head and said that it was necessary to knock, having answered the boss's question. Then her colleagues discussed why she was so upset, because the project was difficult and meaningless, and Xinqian also included the manager in it. But they came to the conclusion that she wants to serve. The woman remembered that she was stupid because she did not raise her head from work, trying to prove something to herself, but she lost sight of the laws of survival in this company. Then she imagined that she was drowning and wondered if all her problems were precisely because she refused to go with the flow. She remembered that then she made a fateful choice for herself when a person appeared and extended her hand to her, a figural drowning woman. Then Director Liang stood in front of the girls from the department, who asked why he was checking on her so often and who he was looking for, because nothing interesting was happening in their department. The boss then, getting dressed and entering the hotel, said that he had a present for her while Xinqian lay in bed, covering herself with a sheet. She was looking at an incredibly beautiful watch that was encrusted with diamonds and was all gold. The girl then said that she could not accept such a gift because it was too expensive and asked to return it to the store. The director, hugging her, said that he seems to love her so much that he doesn't even remember himself from this feeling, and offered to talk to her boss in order to transfer her to his department. She thought that love could heal all wounds, until one day, while at Liang's house, she heard the phone ring. She squinted at the boy's phone, which was lying face down, wondering if it was a work email. Her name was there, and she wanted to check what it all meant. The girl recalled how they were once riding in his car, and the guy said that the number plate of the car was his lucky number and that he had spent a lot of money on it. Looking around so that Liang wouldn't see her, the girl entered the same number that was on his car. She saw pictures of herself in just her panties when she went to the closet to get new underwear. And another photo, how she sleeps, covering only her back with a blanket and exposing her chest. And the most terrible was the video of sex with Liang, which was recorded in all details. She covered her mouth with her hand so as not to scream when she saw all this. The girl had just put the phone on the table when Liang came out of the bathroom in a towel, calling her to get attention. Hugging her from the back, the boy left a kiss in her shoulders and asked if something had happened and why she was crying. But the next moment he was flying backwards in surprise when the girl turned around and threw him away from her, and he asked what happened and said that she was scaring him. Recalling her then self, the woman said that she was broken and her world collapsed in an instant. She cried then, looking at the person she loved, and who, it turned out, did not love her back. She said that the mailbox belonged to an organization within the company, and as soon as photos and videos of girls arrived there, she immediately sold them to VIP sites. The woman said that the man received money every month for sending her photos. To Tsan's surprise, she told that in what month he received $1,900 for her photo and began to complain to his friends that the photos were not selling and that she was fed up already. She said that they are only goods, food of the gods, on which she is allowed to parasitize. And that's when she found out that the company has a private group where girls are trafficked. Jianxia asked why she didn't object then, since she knew about all the cases. The woman said that the girl should not look at her like that, because she does not know what she had to go through, and that she did the right thing when she chose her own protection. She shed a tear, asking why she had to sacrifice her own hard-earned cause for the sake of others. But whether to be dead is a confrontation. Covering her face with her hand, the woman asked what she was guilty of. Under the pouring rain, Jianxia suddenly embraced the woman, holding her close. Burying her face in the boss's neck, the girl thanked her for finding the strength to tell all this. She thought that she had no idea how she faced the pervert's gazes in the dark. Xinqian cried as she hugged the girl. She felt better when she told someone about it. Hiding in the girl's shoulder, the woman said that she could help and would only do it for herself. Standing next to the guard and Bai Jiho, Jianxia was telling the boss that he was the one who would help them with their plan when Xinqian asked what their plan actually was. When the boss thought that the bodyguard could be relied on, before that, Ji grew up, offended who pointed at himself and said that he would help. She looked at all three, the trainee, the idol, and the mobster, and not understanding how they ended up together and whether they can be trusted at all. Clasping her hands in a gesture of supplication, the girl asked the woman to tell them once again all that she had told her before. She said that Wang He Group has a group chat with about 300 men, and it is not so easy to get there. She said that everyone protects the other user, and the selection criteria for future members is very strict. She said that you need to post a certain number of photos and videos with girls to be able to join the group. She said that all members of the group are anonymous, and it is also impossible to forward anything from the chat to somewhere outside of it. Sitting in front of the company, the woman said that the non-distribution rule is not for the safety of the victims, but to ensure that no one gets it for free, much less a stranger who is not a member. Jianxia said that judging by this story, there were also pictures of Mei in this chat. Why then did it become company-wide gossip, and what was the glitch in their system? Covering her face, the woman said that Mei may have crossed someone's path, and that is why everyone saw her photos. The devil looked at the girl attentively and with pain in his eyes, while she thought about what she had heard. He asked Xinqian if she still remembered the address of that email. She said that the mail had already been changed, but she had a memory card that was in the camera in the toilet, and the girl screamed, asking if she had checked that there might be someone who installed it. The woman looked away, saying that she wasn't looking, and that at first she just wanted to forget about it all. Jiho asked where she hid the card, and when she said it was in the office, Jianxia asked if she could give the card to them. Xinqian did agree, saying that she would bring them a memory card. The guard said that his time had come when Song said that the woman could not go alone. Everyone looked at him in surprise and questioning. The boss told the security guard to wait for her here, and that she would be back in 2 minutes and headed to her office. The woman was looking for the same card so quickly, going through everything on the shelf, that she did not even notice that someone was watching her. Taking the cup, to the bottom of which she glued the memory card, she rejoiced. She found it. But the next moment she heard a voice saying that this is where she hid it. The woman's eyes widened in surprise and fear rising inside her. Turning sharply, she asked who he was and who allowed him to enter. A guy in a white suit and a black shirt, and with a gold earring in his ear, said that he didn't need anyone's permission in this building. The security guard knocked on the door of the office, asking Miss Han if everything was okay, because she said she only needed 2 minutes, but she never left. The guard entered the office, looking around and calling the woman, because the office was empty and there was no sign of the woman.